Force is strong in my family. Force is strong in my family. My father has it. My father has it. I have it. I have it. My sister has it. My sister has it. You have that power too. You have that power too. In time, you'll learn to use it as I have.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Chewie, we're home.
My Nerd World.
And welcome to it. It is episode 50 of the My Nerd World Star Wars podcast. I am your host, Jon Justice, and I hope you've had a fantastic week. I'm a little late on the podcast this week. Yes, life got in the way again. But once again, I'm kind of glad that I waited a bit because quite a bit of news has come out over the course of the past few days. And if I had recorded the podcast when I had originally intended, I would have missed out on a couple of these items. So here's what we have for today's podcast. We have some Episode 7 news to share with you. A special screening of The Force Awakens was done recently, and the Oscar-nominated editor of the film did an hour-long Q&A about the movie, which is really, really interesting, providing some insight into The Force Awakens that we will share with you. Plus, a lot of interviews being done with some of the cast members of not just The Force Awakens, but Episode 8. Specifically, John Boyega has talked to a couple of different publications while the cast of Episode 8 is traveling around, and there's been some photographs released of the cast members. And specifically, there was a group of paparazzi, doing that thing with my fingers, photographs that were taking place with the cast arriving in Belfast. And what's really, really interesting about them, if you get the chance to see them online, if you were to Google Star Wars Episode 8 cast travel, you could find these photographs pretty easy. But it's Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley, Kylo Ren and Rey, respectively, and Mark Hamill arriving at the airport, and these paparazzi photos being taken. What's really comical about it is you have Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley doing the fairly typical trying to hide their face from the paparazzi. They're wearing sunglasses, dark sunglasses, and I think Daisy actually had a hood up and trying to cover her face, and Adam Driver had dark sunglasses on and was kind of, hiding his face. And then here you have Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill, just hamming it up for every single photo taken. I mean, throwing up peace signs and 6-shooters with his hands, and hey, it was really cool to see. And that's not a dig on Adam Driver or Daisy Ridley by any stretch of the imagination, but it certainly tells me that here you have a guy like Mark Hamill really just enjoying the opportunity that he has now. Those movies ended, and he said as much in interviews that Mark Hamill didn't expect that Star Wars was ever going to come back, and even was very candid in saying that he wasn't even sure whether or not he was going to go and do Episode 7, but knew that if he didn't, in his own words, he essentially said he would be hated if he had been the most hated man on the planet if he didn't go and do the next movie in the continuing saga of Star Wars. And so it's really clear when you see these photos that he really is just enjoying every single moment. So I'll share with you some of the insight into Episode 8 that's been given to us in these interviews, again, specifically John Boyega. And also we'll run through the question and answer with this editor, Marianne Brandon. Plus, at the end of the podcast, time permitting, I made a list over the weekend, and I'm not exactly sure what brought it about. I had a First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter, the Hasbro one, not the huge Mondo big one, but sort of the standard 3 3/4 TIE Fighter that I purchased, and it sits on my bookshelf along with my other Force Awakens toys, which are kind of dominating the top 3 rows of this bookshelf. And I also have some other Dale Earnhardt Jr. memorabilia, and then I have a lot of my books that I read for my show, and then a whole row of just Star Wars books and magazines on this bookshelf. And I had purchased another First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter, only because Fry's had this amazing discount about a month ago, and it was on sale for like $10. And I'm like, man, it's $10. I'm going to pick this up. And I had planned on keeping it with a couple other unopened toys that I had, Star Wars toys that I had. I have a Attack of the Clones, a Jedi Starfighter. I'm actually looking at it right now. And I have an Episode 1 Anakin Skywalker pod racer that, for whatever reason, I never opened. I already had a pod racer and 3 Jedi Starfighters, and I don't know if it was a similar situation where I found these and I picked them up cheap. I don't know if they were given to me as gifts and I just decided to buy another one, but for some reason, ever since 99 and I don't know, when did Attack of the Clones come out? Well, it was 13 years ago today, so 2003. Is that what it was? When I purchased the other Starfighter, but for some reason I never opened them up, and I had intended to do the same thing with this First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter. And Kyle, my 9-year-old, really wanted to open it up, and even when I brought out the other ones, no, I want to open it. And he's like any typical kid, he wants to open the toys up. He likes opening them up. And as a matter of fact, if you have purchased the 3 3/4 inch action figures, you know that with the Force Awakens line, they added in these pieces that can build machines and guns and flying craft that have nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. They just included these, and if you purchase one action figure and you purchase 2 other action figures, you can get all the pieces to build these things. And I wasn't purchasing my action figures to build these items just because I didn't care they weren't in the movie. But it is clear that the marketing geniuses at Hasbro knew what they were doing, because my 9-year-old is like addicted. You have to buy the Bespin Luke Skywalker, Dad, so that I can finish making this contraption. And not even because he wants to play with it. He just wants to make sure that we finish making this contraption. So, long story long, I had opened up this other Force Awakens TIE Fighter, and suddenly I just got this itch to go and pull out my other Star Wars toys. I have 4 plastic bins, sort of standard size bins, filled with Star Wars toys, with action figures and vehicles. And I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I don't know, 15, 16, maybe, probably close to 20 vehicles in all that I take apart and throw into these bins because there's just no place to display them. Well, I just got a bug to pull out my toys. So I had them in the living room originally, and then I decided, you know what? Let me not put them in the living room, because that's going to drive me and Melinda nuts. And we have this plastic fold-out table that Melinda has used for crafts before. So I propped it up in the bedroom, and my bedroom slash office, and now I have all my Star Wars vehicles out. I had intended to put the action figures out and then take pictures of everything and then put them all away, but I don't have enough space for all the action figures. So I think it's going to have to happen in 2 waves. I think wave 1's going to be all the vehicles, and for as long as Melinda lets me leave them out here, and then wave 2 is going to have to be all the action figures. So I don't know how I got there. This is just how I ended up spending my my weekend. Oh, okay, I know how I got there. So, podcast, what I intended to talk about. So, as I was doing this, I was running through kind of what I wanted to do for this podcast this week, because there wasn't a whole lot of news. Like I said, I'm actually glad that I waited, because there's quite a few news items to share with you this week. And I started thinking, what did I learn from Star Wars? I was talking with Melinda, and we were talking about how young I was when these movies came out. Being 5 years old when A New Hope came out, and looking at some of my older action figures, and I've mentioned this on other podcasts, I have one specific case that follows me around, and they have all my original vintage, original trilogy action figures in them. And I realized I didn't have a lot of action figures from Return of the Jedi, and so we started talking about age, and that, I was just about at the age where I would have stopped getting action figures when Return of the Jedi out, just a couple more years. And so I remember I purchased a few, but really took a break after that. And that got me thinking, wow, you know what? At a really young age, these movies affected me in ways that I don't even think I completely realized. And then I began to think about certain aspects of the film and things that I learned from the Star Wars movies. And so I made just a brief list. And let me pull this up real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, about 10. What I learned from Star Wars. I have about 10 items that I want to work through and share with you on the podcast today. So that's how we'll wrap things up. But let's start here at this special screening of The Force Awakens that took place over the weekend.
There has been an awakening.
This was at the Pollock Theater, and I don't know where this is. I think it might have been in San Francisco.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
So the article goes like this. Oscar-nominated editor Mary Ann Brandon took the time to do an hour-long Q&A about her work on the 7th installment of the favorite franchise. The famous editor touched on Rey's parents, the original beginning of The Force Awakens, Han's death, and a number of items. Let's just get to the Q&A, since this is basically a description of what I'm about to talk about. So, the Q&A began with a very simple question: who are Rey's parents? Here we go again. The answer, according to Mary Ann Brandon, let me make sure I got her name right. Yep. I actually don't know, she said. I'm not even sure that they know. J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan weren't talking about it. They shifted back and forth, and they haven't talked about it. Your guess is as good as mine. In some films that are serialized, we change things all the time. We start with one intention, and suddenly, you know what? Scrap that idea. Let's change who everyone is. Now, I believe her because, and I'm going to jump ahead to another item, and then we'll get back to this Q&A. I believe her because John Williams, composer John Williams, brought the house down over the weekend with a spectacular performance with the Boston Pops on Thursday night. And John Williams doesn't perform a lot now, given that he's now 84 years old. But he did, and during this evening, he shared his own best guess of who Rey's parents are. And Williams said this, and I do that thing with my fingers. I never asked J.J. Abrams who Rey's father is, but I think it's Luke Skywalker, Williams said. Your guess is as good as mine. And I found that fascinating from the standpoint of, we as fans, obviously I do this podcast, we really do overthink this stuff. And there was a lot of speculation that John Williams had hidden in little hints and Easter eggs in the soundtrack to give us clues as to who, like in this case, who Rey's parents are. And people heard, everything from Luke's theme to the Emperor's theme to Obi-Wan, the Force theme. And it turns out, and I believe John Williams, that he didn't know and he didn't ask. As somebody that creates content on a daily basis, it's really fascinating for me, but it makes sense that, they're not really thinking as much about it as we think that they are thinking about it. And case in point, look at what George Lucas did with the original trilogy. He really didn't decide that Luke and Leia were going to be brother and sister until, they were writing Return of the Jedi, right? During The Empire Strikes Back, he hadn't gone there yet. It certainly was the case based off the beginning of the movie, unless George Lucas just happened to be that weird. All right, getting to the next question from the editor, Mary Ann Brandon. On the Force Awakens script, she said this. She talked about the script, the secrecy surrounding it. She was showed the script, which was printed on red paper, each person's name printed across every page, done so if something leaked they would know who it was. The red paper was used so the script couldn't be Xeroxed. And although she was locked in a room where she had to read the script in privacy, she did manage to convince J.J. Abrams to let her take the script home. It was a really tough read. She said 140 pages, especially on this red